Hello, alpha males. Sadly, atypical episode today. I take no joy in this. It's an episode that came out a long time ago. I'm going to put it out today on dealing with active shooters. As somebody who was the commander of a tactical team here, CONUS, in the United States to stop active shooters in a large metropolitan area, I feel it's kind of the right thing to do to put this out again. I want to put in a couple of quotes before we get into the episode. Number 1, Jesus. Let he who has no sword sell his cloak and buy one. Next was from a former Marine, Colonel Jeff Cooper. An unarmed man can only flee from evil, and evil is not overcome by fleeing from it. And a quote from me. You were born into a battlefield, whether you like it or not. Evil is real and present in this world. Don't be fooled into thinking otherwise. With that, the episode. What is going on, alpha males? Welcome to the Alpha Male Podcast. The podcast where we talk about what it means to be a man, made in the image of God, strong, dominant, and in control. And we don't apologize for it. Today I'm going to talk about mass shootings, active shooters. If you've never heard the bio before, which I'll plug in after this, I was the commander of a tactical team to stop active shooters in a large metropolitan area. That's why we were there. That's what we did. It's what we trained for. It was our bread and butter. And I thought for sure that I had done an episode, either here or on Gunfighter Life, on active shooter response. But I had not. So I thought it seemed fairly topical. Try and come at this honestly and righteously and boldly without all the garbage and politics and all that other stuff. What can you do about mass shootings, about active shooters? That's what we're going to talk about today. With that, I'm going to put in the bio and then we'll get into this somber topic. So, who am I? Who is this person talking to you from across the internet? Why should you listen? First and foremost, I am a Christian, a servant of God, and a follower of Jesus Christ. God has blessed me to do many things in my life, for I could do nothing apart from Him. U.S. Marine Corps combat veteran, did a couple of tours in Iraq. As an assaultman after my combat tours, I was an urban warfare instructor for the Marine Corps under Mojave Viper. Also served in the U.S. Army, both full-time and part-time National Guard. Also did several years in law enforcement, LAPD. I worked regular assignments and more specialized assignments. Been a private contractor for a 3-letter government agency. That's all I'll say about that. Been blessed to be a state rifle and pistol champion and West Coast regional rifle champion. Won more shooting competitions with the talent that God's given me than I can actually remember. Was blessed to be the commander of a tactical team in a large metropolitan area. Our primary job, the reason we primarily existed, was to stop active shooters. I got the opportunity to head up and be the commander of that team. I grew up around guns, hunting and shooting and competing at a very early age. Been blessed to hunt all over this beautiful country, from whitetail on the East Coast to mule deer on the West Coast, and bear and elk and all manner of things. I've even been a professional big game hunter and guide. But again, most importantly, I'm a Christian. And I am your host, Michael Melito. Welcome to the podcast. So, what do we do about mass shootings? I think that's the wrong question. What do you do about mass shootings, alpha male, man? What do you do about mass shootings? Because that's what alpha males do. Strong, dominant. They stand up and they protect and provide for those weaker than them. That's part of being an alpha male. You know what beta males do? They point fingers and they complain and they whine. Like sorry little beta males. That's what they do. Real men stand up. Real men do something about it. So what can you do about it? you. It's not a police officer's responsibility. It's your responsibility. I'm going to say something that might tick some people off, but I think it's true, so I'm going to say it. A profession, a title, does not change one's fundamental character or morals. There are some really good teachers. There are some teachers one might even call a hero. There are some teachers, statistically speaking, you could be a teacher and just be there for the paycheck and not give a crap about kids. You can get mad at that if you want. Someone could have the title of a priest and be a child molester. Someone can be a cop, can be a sworn peace officer, and be lazy and a coward. Giving somebody a shiny badge does not a hero make. Pinning a tin star on their chest does not make them a hero. It's the character and the heart. And this is coming from somebody that was a police officer. I was LAPD. I worked regular assignments. Some pretty specialized assignments. And I don't believe that every single police officer is brave or a hero. And I believe the courts have even ruled it's not their duty to protect you. What are you going to do about it? So I just tried to look at some stats. And you'd think it would be an easy statistic to find. But I guess maybe not something you want the general population to know, but I looked and I went with the high estimate that I saw twice, two different sources, of what percentage or how many police officers there were in the United States. I was trying to find what the percentage is of the U.S. population or police officers. Going with the current population that I saw and 660,000, you can verify all this for yourself. I was thinking in the neighborhood of 1%. It's not even close to 1%. It's 0.19, so call it 0.2%. Think about that. Think about that. Think about how long. Give me what you think. How long you think it would take if you needed police help right now. Right now. And you dialed 911 right now. How long do you think it would take for them to get there? I'm going to say if you're guessing under 15 minutes, you're very, very generous. I would say it's usually 15 minutes and usually far more than that. How many people can an evil person with evil in their heart kill in 15 minutes? Kind of as many people as are there, right? As many as they want, really. I respect the hard job the police officers had. I was a sworn peace officer. Worked some of the nastiest streets in the country. I know it's a hard job. If you think they're going to be there the second you need them, you're kidding yourself. It's your responsibility. I don't know what percentage of the U.S. population are armed concealed carriers, but I know what it should be. And I'm not going to say 100% because some men are pacifists, and I'm not going to knock that. Like the guy that movie Hacksaw Ridge was based on. He did a lot of good, and I would never call that man a coward. If that's not you, there are some other reasons legitimately. Let's say you're suffer from some kind of mental disability, right? I'm not going to put that down. Those men maybe get a pass. Some men, sadly, I think are actually men and they're deemed for whatever reason to be too young. I'm going to say I joined the Marine Corps at 17. But anyway, disregarding those numbers, the vast majority of men, why are you not armed? Why do you not have a weapon on you? Jesus Christ said, if you don't have a sword, sell your cloak and buy one. A sword. A sword is a weapon of war. A sword is a weapon. It's not a butter knife. It's not a folding pen knife in your pocket. A sword. A sword is for defense. This is Jesus talking to his disciples. But now, if you have a purse, take it. And also a bag. And if you don't have a sword, sell your cloak and buy one. Sell your jacket. That's how important it is. So you, man, if you don't have a SIG 320 or an M17 or a Smith & Wesson M&P or a 1911 or a Glock, sell your freaking boyish video game and buy one. Sell your TV if you have to. You probably should anyway. Those things are garbage. Sell your cloak and buy one. Why are you not armed? Why? You might say, oh, it's hard to get a concealed carry permit. You know how hard it is to get one in California? Yeah, I do. I used to live there. I left. Have you even tried to get a concealed carry permit in California? You might get turned down, but if you haven't tried, You see where I'm going with that. Do you have a sidearm? Do you carry it? I was just doing manual labor today. Picked up a manual labor job to help out financially. Been doing this podcast full time, and by God's grace it's been growing. But the money's not exactly rolling in, which is fine. To make up some extra income, literally rolled up my sleeves today, threw on the old cowboy boots, and did some manual labor. And if I got a regular 9-to-5 job, the podcast would really suffer. I consider this my full-time job now. The point of that is, it was very inconvenient to carry a gun when I was doing that. Guess what? I still did. I don't want to hear it. Why are you not carrying a gun? Why are you not armed? If you can't be armed with a gun, do you have a knife and do you train with that? We'll get to training in a little bit. What about your truck gun? You had better have a truck gun. Do you have a shotgun in your truck or your car, in your trunk? Or an AR or an AK? I don't really care. Everybody gets wrapped around the axles. I do a whole other podcast, Gunfighter Life. This round versus that round, and this model versus that model, and this barrel length versus that barrel length. Have a gun. Know how to use it. Use it. Train with it. We'll get to training. Do you have that? Do you have a medical kit? Do you have all that stuff? It's not somebody else's responsibility. And people will say, I could get shot by the police when they show up. Yeah, maybe. But again, 15 minutes, 20 minutes, 45 minutes, hours later, bad things can happen to you. This is the world we live in. It's your responsibility. It's your responsibility. If there are women and children dying, are you not armed wherever you go? One of the mass shootings I just heard about that happened was at like a plant nursery. Oh, you're just going, with your wife to the store, to wherever. Why are you not armed? You never know when that's going to happen. Why are you not armed and dangerous? It's good for good men to be dangerous. Dangerous is not a bad word. When I didn't grow up a Christian, I grew up a heathen, and I was a gunfighter for a while professionally. And I thought for a while maybe I'm supposed to give that up. But then I thought about what's loving. I have all this training and experience. By God's grace, the courage He's blessed me with. If I'm in a movie theater and somebody starts shooting up the movie theater, women and children are just dying, I'd submit the most loving thing I can do is make that evil person change his behavior. Post haste. Is it more loving for me to take care of that threat, that adversary, or for me to just sit there for 15 minutes sucking my thumb like a beta male waiting for somebody else to show up and take care of the problem? So if hitherto men, you have not been armed, why are you not armed? Why are you not training? Talk about training. Most of these mass shooters I think there's at least one I can think of, maybe two that had training. The vast majority have no training. Training makes you much more efficient. People think of police as gunfighters. They are not gunfighters, speaking as a police officer. I would say a lot of police officers get just enough training to make them not a liability, and that's about it. They might qualify. Some of the better agencies, once a month, sometimes once every 6 months or once a year. I'm also big into working out and physical fitness. How fit do you think that I would be if I worked out once a month? It's a perishable skill. They're not gunfighters. Yes, I think you should have more training than that. You should take it upon yourself to be better than that. Get some training. Get some basic hands-on training. Get your concealed carry, which I would consider, depends on the course. I'm not going to put that in any course, but get some actual training. Learn to draw and get hits on target. Get training. If, let's say, whatever the percentages of men that can carry a gun, excluding the ones with physical limitations and mental disabilities and whatever, age, let's call it 80%. I think that's being reasonable and, if anything, generous. 80%. What if 80% were armed and trained and dangerous? And then when an active shooting broke out, they killed nobody, or one person, or whatever the case is, because people were there armed and they stopped it. People still try and ban guns? Yeah. But do you care about the politics, or do you care about stopping innocent people from dying? I care about stopping innocent people from dying. If you don't want to take your guns away, you're always going to try and find a reason to take your guns away. I think a byproduct of that, it will give them less ammunition to try and take your guns away because they're being used for good things. But let's be honest, they're still going to try and take them away. Are you concerned more about the politics, or are you concerned about stopping the loss of innocent life, protecting women and children and other people weaker than you. Yeah, sometimes it can be inconvenient. Yeah, a lot of times I don't feel like going to the gym every day or training every day with a firearm. But I do, except for Sabbath where I rest. You can do a lot of this stuff dry fire. In your house. Or outside your house. Or whatever. In the woods. So what can we do about mass shootings, active shooters? You can stand up and be a man. You can man up. Grab your sword and get to work. Carry it with you. Hopefully you never ever need it. I would be just fine if I was never in another armed confrontation in my entire life. I would be fine with that. I have seen more carnage and bloodshed in my life than I care to ever remember. But if I have to, I'll change somebody's behavior. And that's the attitude you should have. If you really can't have a gun, and some people really, for whatever reason, maybe they can't. Can you be armed with something else? Yeah, it would suck to go against somebody with a gun, with a chair or a club or whatever. I certainly hope if you're listening to the podcast, you carry a knife every day. I would hate to go against a guy with an AK with a knife. But if that's what I had, I hope by God's grace I'd have the courage to man up and get it done. Stop making excuses. Do what you can. Be a man. Harkening back to a mass shooting that was not that long ago where it was in a school. Everybody was pointing fingers. Why did the police do this? Why didn't they do that? You're telling me there was not a grown man, any of those grown adult men teachers in that building, or any adult male there, just thought it was okay to, and every single one of them thought it was just okay to be armed and just stand idly by and do nothing? There wasn't a single courageous armed man in that entire school. To me, that's one of the biggest failures. You can point fingers at police all you want. Giving somebody a badge does not a hero make. It's a shiny piece of metal. It changes nothing about character. Why don't you do something about it? Be more diligent. You already conceal carry every day. Good. How's your truck gun? You maintained it lately? You make sure it's zeroed lately? Have you dry fired with it lately? You get what I'm saying. Be prepared. I'm going to get into a little bit more firearm specific stuff. I want this to come out on Alpha Male Podcast because hopefully it gets people into carrying a gun. I do a whole other podcast called Gunfighter Life. Go listen to that on any other topic you want, on truck guns, on new gun owners, on all kinds of minutia on guns. But I'm going to transition to some gun stuff here. So if this doesn't apply to you, you live in France or whatever, I really appreciate and I'm humbled that you listen. I know there are quite a few listeners from France, which I'm very humbled by. But if you can, be armed. If you're going to take that next step, if you already are armed, take the necessary steps to get your proper documentation, get your stamp of approval from the magistrate or whatever it is. Go to the range, make sure you're comfortable with that gun, know your firearm safety rules, practice the fundamentals, and always strive to master the fundamentals. It's a lifelong struggle. It's not a one and done. It's a perishable skill. It's kind of like being in shape, being fit. You don't just get fit, you are fit and you maintain fitness. And they're like, oh, I'm fit now, I'm going to stop. Guess what? It doesn't work that way. Shooting is the same way, especially handgun shooting. It's a very perishable skill. Strive to master the fundamentals. A lifelong struggle, a lifelong race. It's like a marathon. Right? I didn't say this was going to be easy. I said man up and do it. Strive to master the fundamentals. Once you get that down, what I would also consider a fundamental that many don't is the draw. Because if it's a handgun for defense, you have to access it. Comfortable carrying with one in the chamber, because carrying one without one in the chamber, why? Right? And then get proficient with the draw. Again, a lot of this you can do, especially at first, and even when you're really good, dry fire. Practice, dry fire, the draw. Get that gun out and into action. You can have the best, fanciest, tacticalist, flat dark earth with the coolest optic and the biggest caliber gun on your hip that you want, the biggest big iron you want. If you can't get it into action in the appropriate amount of time, in the necessary amount of time, then it's just a heavy piece of metal on your hip, right? A lot of gunfights are start and finish in seconds. Seconds can be a dramatically long time in a fight. To learn how to access that gun quickly, get it out quickly, and then get rounds on target. Talking about the firearm stuff, a couple of basic drills. Obviously the draw. On getting one shot on target. Once you're proficient with that, try getting multiple hits on target. Just because you shoot somebody, especially with a handgun, does not mean they're going to immediately change their behavior. It may take several doses, let's call it. Practice getting fast follow-up shots on target. Practice the classic Mozambique drill, 2 to the chest, 1 to the head. Practice other drills as well, like 4 center mass as fast as you can, or perhaps 2 to the chest, 2 to the pelvic girdle. Whatever kind of responses, you should train multiple of them. Be able to do that. And there's a myriad of things you can do from there. You need to make sure your gun shoots and cycles and shoots the same point of impact, point of aim with your carry ammo, your defensive ammo. That's whole podcasts on carry ammo and the science that goes into them and all that stuff. Defensive handgun ammo. Again, there's a lot that goes into it. And then stay proficient with it. Train. You see, it's easy to point fingers across the aisle and say, oh, they restrict this and they do this and they do that, and it's so hard here and it's inconvenient, and so what? Man up and do it. If you're at one of these incidents and you're there, you are the emergency responder. It's not on somebody else, it's on you. Somebody starts shooting women and children, and I hate to be graphic, but this is the world that we live in. Telling me it's the alpha male thing to do to call 911 and sit down and suck your thumb for 15 minutes until somebody shows up and may or may not do anything about it. For you to take care of that threat. I was a couple of days out from shipping out on a contract to Afghanistan. It was like a matter of days. 2 days stands out in my head. Maybe it was 3. Maybe it was a few. I don't remember. I was days away from shipping out to Afghanistan when I got offered the job to head up a team to stop active shooters. And I thought it, and I prayed about it. And how can you really pass that up? Like the opportunity to save and preserve lives here in America. I got to head that up, and I got to not just train, but train a bunch of really good men and women. And be a part of that team, and what a blessing that was. You don't need a badge. You don't need a bunch of tactical kit. If you want tactical kit, that's fine. I certainly have it. But even us, where that was our primary job, there was a few of us. There were several dozen of us, but in an area with millions of people. Even doing that job, I would love to have had people that could have assisted. Good men willing to stand up, to man up, and do something about it. So what can you do? You can stand up and be a man. You think there's just some bill that's going to pass or some button that's going to get pressed that's just going to fix all this? No, it doesn't exist. It requires you being a man, rolling up your sleeves and being willing to do something about it. And hopefully you never need to. You can man up and do something about it. Anyway, with that, it's a somber topic, so I'm not going to throw in some crass commercialism. I'm going to give you a tactical tip and then some tactical verses of the day. Tactical tip of the day, talking about the draw. You see a lot of people, they want to go really fast on the draw. They start getting better. They want to go fast. One of the keys to having a fast draw is doing less. The less I do, the faster I can get there. My goal is to get that gun from out of the holster and front sight aligned and on target, or optic aligned and on target. The less steps I have to do to achieve that goal, the faster I can achieve it. See a lot of new shooters, a lot of new people new to carrying. You watch them, they do all these superfluous. Superfluous is just more than is necessary. To do the necessary steps to get that gun out and on target. Most people have an iPhone. You're dry firing. Video yourself on the draw and see what you're doing that you can iron out and smooth out. Are you putting in any extra movement? Real common one is you'll see somebody grab with their gun hand, their whatever side their gun is on. They'll grab with that hand and then they'll bring their support hand up. Why? Bring them both up at the same time. Save time. Or you'll see them grab it and then point the muzzle way up and then bring it back down to the target. Why? Get the gun out and get the muzzle oriented at the target and drive it straight there. The faster you do that, the faster you can get a good shot off and a good hit on target. So if you want a fast draw, if you're working on a fast draw, which a lot of you hopefully are in concealed carry, if you worry about being smooth and ironing out all the superfluous stuff, the speed will come. If you don't move any faster, if you're doing less to achieve the goal, you'll get there faster. It's like in the world of GPS, I just wander around a neighborhood trying to get to where I'm going, making all these turns. And I find out how to get there some roundabout way. And then the next time I'm like, I want to go there faster, and I just floor it. And I go around the turns, screeching tires, cars up on 2 wheels, and I get there. Yeah, I get there a little bit faster. Or I could just plug it up in the GPS and go the most direct route with no turns, a straight line there. Maybe one turn instead of 5 turns. You get the idea? Same thing in your draw. Be efficient. Some tactical verses of the day. Blessed be the Lord my rock, who trains my hands for war and my fingers for battle. Psalm 144. The Lord is a man of war. Exodus 15. Let he who has no sword sell his cloak and buy one. You'll find that in the Gospel of Luke. Here's a reading from 1 Samuel. This day the Lord will deliver you into my hand, and I will strike you and take your head from you. And this day I will give the carcasses of the camp of the Philistines to the birds of the air and the wild beasts of the earth, that all the earth may know that there is a God in Israel. Then all the assembly shall know that the Lord does not save with sword and spear, for the battle is the Lord's, and he will give you into my hands. That was David. You'll find that in 1 Samuel. That was David, a man after God's own heart, a mighty warrior who slayed a bunch of people. A man after God's own heart. With that, if these mass shootings, if they anger you, I submit that they should. It is written, be angry and do not sin. If they anger you, you can sit there and complain about it and whine about it like a beta male, or you can do something about it. You can be part of the solution for that. Anyway, with that, men, thanks for listening and have a blessed day.